The U.S. Navy has finally acknowledged that videos appearing to show UFOs flying through the air are real. They don't call them UFOs. They call them unidentified aerial phenomena. The several videos they're talking about were recorded years ago by fighter pilots. Then in 2017, they were made public by the New York Times. More now from our Randy Kay.
It's rotating.
Images of that rotating thing captured by U.S. Navy aircraft, sensors locking in on the target. Commander David Fravor saw it firsthand during a training mission, describing it like a 40-foot-long tic-tac, maneuvering rapidly and changing direction.
Welcome back. Blake Cousins here, Third Phase Moon. We've got an incredible interview tonight with both Dr. Michael Salla and Corey Goode in regards to the secret Space Force and the technology behind it. And where is the Space Force going in the direction of 2020? And what could be in store for us now? Listen up as we get into the incredible insight from Dr. Michael Salla and Corey Goode.
I've talked over a year about the Alliance. And the Alliance, it's made up of a loosely knit group of people fighting the cabal. The Alliance had sort of made a deal that they were going to go for a partial disclosure, which is they're going to let us know about certain technologies, certain parts of our history, but in little pieces and protracted out over 20 to 50 years. Well, those of us in this full disclosure project, we want full disclosure, and we want full disclosure now, and that's what we're working for.
There's been secret programs, a stealth bomber, suppressed for 30 years. When do you think the public's going to be able to see these space stations with their own eyes?
The way the Air Force began its secret space program developments was studying some retrieved alien technologies. They got these through different crashes all over the country. We know about the Roswell crash, the Aztec crash. There were other crashes like Kingman, Arizona crash, and even the Los Angeles air raid back in 1942, which incidentally was one of the first crashes that the Air Force got their hands on some of these technologies. Back in the day, the Air Force didn't exist. It was at that time called the Army Air Force. And so the Air Force has been studying these technologies for decades, and they've been reverse engineering these with the help of different companies. Companies such as the Douglas Aircraft Company, which was a major company in the 1940s, 50s and 60s, but which was eventually incorporated into the Boeing Company. Lockheed Aircraft Company and some of the other major aircraft companies have all provided the kind of corporate contractors that can build these technologies that the Air Force has been secretly studying at its facilities over at Dayton Air Force Base. The Wright-Patterson Air Force Base has been the premier Air Force installation for studying these technologies. Area 51, Nellis Air Force Base, they've also been studying these technologies. Some of the other places are Kirtland Air Force Base has been Kirtland Air Force Base, Shriver Air Force Base, as well as Nellis. They've been all involved in the studies of these retrieved alien technologies and working with the different corporations to build them on site and to learn how to use these technologies, how you train pilots for navigating these kinds of advanced technologies that require a kind of mind technology interface. So it's not simply a matter of a pilot learning some new instrumentation. It's about a pilot learning how to train their mind using some kind of advanced kind of training process like meditation, so that they can interface their mind with these technologies. This is why a lot of the grey extraterrestrials have been used for these technologies, because they don't have the same mental problems that we have. So the Air Force has been doing all of these different things. I think the process of revealing all of these advanced technologies that have been secretly built and assembled going back many decades by the Air Force and some of its partners, that process has begun. I think that the fact that you actually can go on to the website of the National Reconnaissance Office and find 825 programs that are 825 documents that have been declassified, you can see that the manned orbiting laboratory was actually continued, that this was actually something that was not cancelled in 1969 by President Johnson, that it was continued, and they had different configurations for building these laboratories or these space stations in Earth orbit. And so that's already beginning the process for people who look at these documents to understand that something continued here, that this wasn't cancelled after all, that phase 2 of the program, which was the unmanned portion, which was to assemble these different laboratories or these different cylinders up in space, that was actually continued secretly. We have some other things, some other signs that are happening. We have patents that are being released more and more now. That these patent applications are being granted. They talk about the development of some triangular shaped craft, talking about the development of craft using warp drive. You have the Defense Intelligence reference documents that have been released that deal with all of these kinds of advanced technologies, such as traversable wormholes, warp drives again, being able to access all kinds of advanced materials for space travel.
So a part of this slow release of information is going to be, we have had some secret technology for a while, but guess what? We can just fly out to the, maybe to the moon and back, maybe to Mars on extended excursions, but we're pretty much still around the Earth right now. But we do have some anti-gravitic technologies, and we're now letting you know about it. Well, I've been talking about that being a part of this partial disclosure, and the Space Force, I think, is a way for them to aggregate all of these secret programs, secret space programs on the military-industrial complex level, to aggregate them and, do a debut under the Space Force moniker.
And actually, one of the programs that is being run up there is run by Air Force Special Operations. These are Air Force Space Commandos, or they're known as Air Force Commandos, but they are actually deployed in space, so that now we can start thinking of the Air Force as having Space Commandos. So Air Force Special Operations, they operate out of MacDill Air Force Base. They have their units of these flying triangles and flying rectangles that fly out into space and do all sorts of operations. And my source in Florida has provided photographs of these things, and he's actually being encouraged to take these photographs by the special operations operatives down there out of MacDill. And so I can share some of those photos with you, and you can see right there, these are flying triangles operating out of MacDill Air Force Base, flying rectangles operating out down there as well.
A deep black, deeper than black government program is designed to where everyone who goes in and participates, when they leave, they have no proof. They have nothing but a story, if that. Many of them are given psychotropic drugs while they're there to cause their memories to be a little wonky, and then they use blank slating technologies on them. So no one is going to come out and have a book or a manual taken from one of those programs and say, here is the proof. There's no way you can make it up one of the elevators or through the security checkpoints with anything. So, of course, there's going to be no proof. All there is corroboration between other people who are considered somewhat legitimate or legitimate whistleblowers. And historical evidence, along with people like William Tompkins coming forward, have definitely led credence, along with people like David Wilcock and Dr. Sala doing heavy research.
Can you both delve into the different extraterrestrial beings that exist amongst us today and why there's no solid proof of evidence that they exist?
Wow, yeah, the government at last report had admitted in, I think, Majestic type papers that there were 58 or so groups visiting us, with I think 3 or 4 main groups. The Ebens, which are a group that are peaceful and don't really meddle too much. And then there are the Greys, which we should talk about them being the tall Greys. The short Greys are really just androids or robots that are used by all of them. They all use them. And then you have the reptilians. Of course, we talk about that in Above Majestic. And then we have the Nordic types. The Nordic types have told us that they're from all different types of star systems, and there is more than one Nordic type. And there are other groups like this Nordic group. There is an African-looking group. There is a Polynesian-looking group. I think we're going to find very few of these extraterrestrials are Caucasian or blonde-haired, blue-eyed, like a lot of people depict. Many of our cosmic cousins from the local 52 star cluster are people of color. And when we get to a point to our cosmic cousins actually visiting and integrating with us, we are going to be forced to deal with some of our petty racist programming here on our planet. We'll have no choice at that point.
Launching his first human flight to the space station via Dragon. Tell me, Corey, are you still working within the secret Space Force?
I am not enlisted in any programs at this point. I was pretty much, the end of my last 20 and back would have been around 1996, around June or July. At that point, I really didn't have any access to the secret space program. Here and there, I would get picked up out of the blue and asked to locate portals with other intuitive empaths, but I was not a whole lot of use to them because I had, after 3 20 and backs, they had utilized the serum on me too many times, and it had burned out some of my neurology and caused, some issues that allowed me to no longer be an optimal intuitive empath to be able to interface with the other 2 to triangulate portals. But I was not involved with the secret space program until around 2014, between 96 and 2014. And now I am kind of forced upon them because of my relationship with the Blue Avians and other meetings that I've been brought into because of that position. So I've sort of was forced on them, and they've sort of dealt with me instead of welcomed me in with open arms.